One. Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie Scheller, your host with the Business Owner Spotlight. Spotlight is about finding incredible business owners who have a great story, but more than that, they have great insight to share. And so every week I'm out there looking for those business owners, and I'm kind of excited because this guy that I'm talking to right now, I started reading this book, and I'm going to totally botch up the name. If you want to know the name of the book, I'm sure he can tell you, or you can plug into our book club video next month. But I started reading this book, and then a friend of mine was like, hey, you got to meet like basically the local version of the author. So that was how I got connected with Chris. Hey, Chris, thanks for joining me.
Oh, well, thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to kind of sharing a little bit about our story and kind of how we got.
Yeah. So, well, let's start there because I know what you do, kind of, sort of, and I don't think any of our listeners, unless they happen to know you personally, have any idea. So what do you do, and how did you guys get to where you are now?
Sure. And I'll just give a little bit background about where we've been and, kind of where we're going. Our firm, I'm a partner in a locally based CPA firm, Williams Mask, and it's actually, I'm the third generation partner. My grandfather started the firm back in the 50s, and throughout the histories in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, my dad joined the practice at some point in the early 70s. And really, I grew up around the firm, and it was a very traditional CPA firm. Did income tax returns for individuals and small businesses and trust and audit and bookkeeping. And, growing up, I guess I saw my mom, and my mom's actually a CPA too. So kind of grew up in that family environment. But grew up around the firm and just great culture, great people, but, just very straightforward, traditional CPA services. And as a young kid, I admired what my parents did, but I didn't aspire to do it myself. And perhaps that's just because growing up as a kid, you think about having fun on spring break. And as a son of tax accountants, you understand that spring break doesn't exist. And so my journey is a little bit indirect how I got here, and perhaps maybe a little bit why we're trying to do things differently now. So out of undergrad, I really was a finance and management major and got to have I've had tons of tremendous mentors, more on the business entrepreneur side, finance side. And so I got to learn and have some experiences outside of where, our current firm growing first out of college. So for about the first 10 years, I traveled around the country, got to work with some really elite groups, never intending to be a CPA, never intending to come work for the family firm. I mean, I love this. I'd always loved this place, but it was not my mainstream goals. But won't bore you with the whole story, but at some point after I'd been in school for a while, I was doing a lot of planning and sophisticated estate planning and investment planning for some high net worth clients at another firm, and thought, well, becoming a CPA is not a bad idea. I mean, it's just kind of the language of business. So I went back and got a master's degree in accounting, and sat for the CPA exam, passed the exam, became a CPA, never intending to come over here. But I think throughout my journey, I got the opportunity to work with a lot of business owners and see a lot of the things that make just business and entrepreneurs successful, and was really intrigued by that. And so my dad, not, ever, really having done a lot of succession planning, one time his partner, Dan Crow, approached me and said, hey, Chris, now that you're a CPA, wouldn't you want to come work over here? And, I was flattered, but the answer was no. I mean, I loved what I was doing. But after about a year or so of just talking about it, it made a lot of sense. Not only am I very close to my family, and our culture around here is so unique, and it's just a great family environment, but it was more of the opportunity. And I'm really blessed that my dad and Dan, the other partner, agreed from day one, hey, we're willing to think about doing our business in a different way. And that was intriguing to me because I thought that traditional CPA services, what I would consider to be compliance, are very straightforward. You can go to H&R Block and get them done. And so, I don't and I also think there's a robot out there that can probably eventually do audits and tax work, and heck, that, a lot of people, maybe that's a good option. So when I came over, I sort of had a background in a lot more consulting, and from day one, we started to evolve the practice that direction, where we may prepare tax returns and bookkeeping, but we're going to think differently. And so it's been cool. That's more the delivery side. The other stuff behind the scenes is I had been privileged to be a part of some organization that did more of business planning, goal settings, offsite retreats, all the things that I've seen in a lot of our successful clients. And I thought, well, golly, you don't see most CPA firms doing that. They're kind of the nerdy type that I'm just going to go bean count all day, and I'm real smart, but I'm not going to really look at anything. So not that I don't know how to bean count, but it intrigues me a little bit less than other things. So the idea that we could sit down with clients and say, okay, where have we been? But really more importantly, where are we going, and forecast and be that consultant. It's not a commodity. It's a really customized thing we can do. But then also in terms of just the way we run the business with our team and our culture and our core values and our core purpose, and why are we really here, and our big, hairy, audacious goal, a big term that you hear thrown around, Jim Collins. And so I'm kind of just a bundle of weird experiences, but, just trying new things. And the book you referenced, Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree, and he's a CPA out of Alabama, and an amazing man, just very smart. And he wrote a whole book for business owners based on, when you look at your financials, they can be extremely confusing, but how can you actually not be a slave to them, but use them to make your business more profitable? And I've spent a lot of time with Greg, and we're very like-minded in why we do what we do, really to have the positive impact. But he's been very gracious, and we're really doing a lot of the same things for our clients that he does for his clients in Alabama and nationally. So extremely good book for business owners to read. And it has a lot of really simple things that you can do to evaluate profitability.
Nice. I love it. Well, and I think, there's such a big difference between the bean counters and, and the people who actually do like the consulting side, because the thing, I tell people this all the time, oftentimes the entrepreneur doesn't necessarily get the whole finances side, which is why, like books like Greg's book are so helpful, but also having people like you in the background is helpful too. Now, I got to mention this, right? So you mentioned the culture and the people and how you enjoy running that side of the business, and you're wearing a very unique outfit over there today. So I assume that's part of the culture, right?
Yeah, we like to have a lot of fun. I mean, I'm very proud of our team, and really, they have, whether it's getting named best places to work, we do a lot of service projects, but we also do a little bit of silly too. So today was tacky sweater days. Someone purchased this for me, and if I didn't wear it, I was going to be in a lot of trouble. So we had kind of potluck lunch. And so, it's really important to me that, typically accounting firms are very driven by billable hours, and, the term sweatshop I've heard used. It's a credit to my dad and grandmother that's not what this place has ever been about. And I feel like, as, privileged to be the third generation as a part of it, we're going to keep that. And so that means that we do really good work, and we work hard for our clients, but our families are important too. And so we don't work 100 hours a week. We like to have fun. We like to do service. To me, if we do all of those things, the execution of how we do the actual work kind of just goes along with it. So yeah, it was good. Lots of tamales at lunch, and a bunch of silly looking people around here today.
I'm surprised you're still awake then after a whole bunch of tamales for lunch.
No, it's not probably not going to last too much longer. I'll tell you.
So one big question that keeps kind of popping into my head is, how did you handle the transition? Because this is something that not many businesses get the chance to experience, as the transition from one generation to the next, but the ones that do all seem to be kind of trying to figure it out on their own. How did you guys handle that transition to you, and what were some of the challenges that came along with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I don't think there's one way that it happens. I know for me, before I agreed to come over here, I tried to have as much, especially since there was family involved. And I don't want anyone to feel around here like I've been given anything. I mean, if anything, I get in early, make the coffee, scrub the floors, because I think having the
Nice.
last name Williams is a blessing and a curse. But thinking, oh, this snot-nosed kid that used to come up here on Saturdays is now the boss, whatever that means. Um, so, for me, it was very important to define, okay, what was the buyout? Just because I'm related doesn't mean that I get special treatment. And in addition, from day one, was I going to have the ability to influence the direction and the way we do business? Now, I'm not naive, and I appreciate the experience that my dad and Dan had, and I don't want to just change things for the sake of change. But I'm also just not interested in being part of a business that's good. And this business has been really, really good, Williams Crow Mass, for the last 60 years. I'm looking forward, and I want to be great. And I know that there's certain things that we can do that are unique and allow us to do this. But, in terms of the transition, I was also somewhat, interested. Sorry, my phone thing is ringing.
Give it a second. We can't hear you over it.
That's what happens when your MacBook somehow is hooked to your phone and things go through. So I apologize. I have no idea. I normally don't. I purposely put, that's a big pet peeve of mine, because I put my phone like it's in my truck. So the only reason it's ringing is because it came through my computer.
No, you're good.
Sorry about that. But so, I think the other thing that I realized was that although I had these ideas, that Rome wasn't built in a day. So it's been an evolution, not revolution, and we continue to innovate slowly. So we're not just going to totally turn up the apple cart. I think another challenge that I've faced is when I joined the practice, it wasn't broken. We were profitable. We were doing well. So to advocate for change when things are going pretty good is a little bit different approach, as opposed to when you're about to go bankrupt and things are just going out the window. It's pretty easy to come in and say, kind of like a corporate fixer, like I'm going to come in and do it. So I had the unique challenge of how do we gently, and sometimes I'm more gentle than others, but how do we, kind of evolve, not revolve, and just, because what we're doing is a bit radical even for our team, in terms of the way we think and the way we deliver. So it's been a cool journey, and it continues to move forward.
Nice. I love it. Well, and I think that's a really good point. I wrote that one down, the evolution, not a revolution, because, you come in, and I go into businesses that are completely failing and some that are doing well and just want to take it to the next level. And it's, the ones that are doing well that everyone panics on, right? Because they're all like, we're already doing well. Why are we making changes? Why are we going to mess with what's not broken? So I think that's a really good, I'm totally going to borrow that, because that's a great way to phrase it.
Well, I would think it kind of goes back to the idea, and I attended a conference or read a book at one point, and the idea, if you don't think your business can be disrupted, you're wrong. I mean, I'm not really one that says black and white on a lot of things, but I mean, you're being very naive if you don't think, if you want to do something the same way it's always been done. I don't claim to have all the innovative ideas, but I know that if you're not constantly improve yourself every day is one of our core values. And I really believe it personally, on a personal level, on a business level. We need to learn from every experience we have. We need to continue to innovate. And that doesn't always mean, I think when people hear innovation, they think, oh, it's some big tech breakthrough. Innovation can be small, incremental, and sometimes those small things really build up into great outcomes. Although I think you got to have a North Star to where you're going. I mean, we have a big goal that we want to achieve over the long term. So everything we do is kind of directed towards that. But it's the little things that'll get us there.
I like that. I was going to ask, so this is kind of a random one, but I'm sure a lot of business owners will be interested. what is the biggest, I don't know if I want to use the word mistake, but what's the biggest issue when clients come in that you have to fix and have to fix quickly that you see repeatedly popping up?
There's a couple answers to that. Sometimes people will come in and they've just really, for one reason or another, maybe the books are kind of messy and they haven't had the ability to really have clarity in what it looks like. And unfortunately, sometimes that fools themselves into profitability, or they're or maybe they're better off than they look. So, financials can be I think one of the reasons that is nobody wants to mess with the books. Nobody wants to bank reconcile. And I would, suggest that if you've got clean books, you can look at a couple of key numbers, and that's actually going to help you be more profitable. It's going to help you make better decisions with your team. Who deserves and who has earned more incentive compensation? When do you have to make a tough conversation? Should I expand? Not that the financials are the here-all end-all, but they can, objectively be a guide to helping you make better decisions. So kind of the messiness, and I think sometimes the neglect is due. We sometimes like to do the things we like least, we do last. And so sometimes that initial cleanup, and I think that's a good baseline to get started.
What are some of those numbers that people should be looking at on their financial statements, assuming they have a clean set, which is, of course, a big assumption I've found?
One thing, before you even get to that, I think, your net profit, and go ahead and figure EBITDA because depreciation exists. But before you can even get there, one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners don't do is pay themselves a market-based wage. If you had to replace yourself, and that should be the compensation you receive for working in the business. So if I had to replace my skill as doing CPA work, not as a business owner, just as a practitioner, what would I have to pay myself? And a lot of times owners of the business will pay themselves $30,000 a year, perhaps, and it would be, if they had to replace themselves, they're doing a lot more. Now I realize cash flow issues are a thing, but really you're fooling yourself into profitability if you don't do that. And I know there's games people play with salary for self-employment tax, but I think that's a real basic. The other probably biggest mistake, and it's related to that, is I kind of have four, and Greg talks about it in his book, but I firmly believe it. There's kind of four progressions of how you should use your cash. And I can go into that, but to keep it real simple, the last thing you do with your cash is you pull it out of the business as profits. Unfortunately, many times that's the first thing people do, and they forget that they have to pay tax with that cash. They may want to have some debt that they need to manage within the business. They may want to establish some core capital to ride out cycles, or when the down cycle hits, they now have cash on hand to be opportunistic. And then you pull out the profits. A lot of times people have that upside down, and they do that maybe because they don't pay themselves a market-based wage, so they feel like they've got to strip the company of the capital. So
that's a really good one. I know we're practically out of time, so I'll ask you in just one, maybe two sentences, what's your best piece of advice for other business owners?
Oh, wow. I don't think I have one big piece. I think, your team matters more than anything else. And you've probably had guests on this program that say that. If you have the right people, and that's going to trump everything else. Now you got to make sure they're sitting in the right seats, on your bucket. But that's beyond financials. But I feel like people are what make businesses successful. But then to apply some concepts of labor efficiency to make sure that you're paying, compensating appropriately is really important as well.
Nice. I love it. Well, I got a lot out of our chat today. Thank you. I know you've got a lot on your plate, especially this time of year, wrapping everything up for everyone. So thanks for taking time to chat with me.
Oh, well, thank you. And I really apologize about my phone beeping in. That's a pet peeve of mine, and I'm a little bit embarrassed about that. So I'm sorry about that.
Well, it happens. We'll just tell everybody that when they come to see you in person, they should just plan for their phone to go off.
Yeah, that's it. I deserve it for sure.
Well, cool. For our listeners out there, I think this is great. I think this is a way overlooked topic, especially for business owners. You know, I didn't really spend time getting the finances right until about 2 years into running my business. And when I did, I realized I was way behind the ball game, and it was something I should have done much, much sooner. So I will highly encourage you guys, rewatch this. Chris gave me permission to post his info below, so I will put that down there so you can reach out to him with more questions. In the meantime, you have got an amazing opportunity in front of you because you truly have the life that you want for yourself if you'll just reach out there and start working towards it, because we are done trying to hit the target. It's time to smash it, but you're the only person who can put that energy out. So go make it a great week.